Sure. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome back to TC Live, the voice that reminds you we care, we share, and we are on air. I think you already had a quick recap for the letter D. Welcome back to Grammatist. This is the show that sharpens your language skills for the corporate world and beyond. And I'm your host, Monishree. It's Monday again, 5:30 p.m., your weekly appointment for fine-tuning your English for the workplace. So today we'll focus on a fantastic, flexible, and frequently used letter in business, the letter F. From short essentials to powerful corporate terms, these F words are going to help you sound more focused, firm, and future ready in meetings, emails, and presentations. So let's go ahead and start. We will start with a few short words. I would like to start with 3-letter words. The first 3-letter word we have today is fix. Fix means simply repair or correct something, and sometimes it can be used in the corporate in a replacement of confirming. For example, we can say we need to fix the error before the client is noticing it, or we need to fix a correct time for the meeting to be scheduled. The next 3-letter word we have is fit. Fit simply means suitable or appropriate or to be the right match. For example, this policy may not be a good fit for our team. The next 3-letter word we have is fee. Fee means a payment that is made for service. For example, the agency charges us a monthly management fee for handling our sales campaigns. The next 3-letter word we have is few. Few means a smaller number. It could be the number of people, number of things. It just represents a smaller group, a smaller number. For example, only a few team members have access to the confidential data in our team. The next 3-letter word we have is far. Far means to a great distance or at a very great distance, usually used for the extent, the length. For example, we have come far from where we started with this product idea, or we have come far from where we were in the last quarter. Okay, those were 5 3-letter words that you can use in your daily conversations. Now let's move on to a few 4-letter words as well. The first word we have today is fast. Fast means quick or at high speed. For example, we can say we need a fast response to the client's query, or we need to take fast action on whatever is required for them. The next 4-letter word we have is full. Full means containing as much as possible. It means complete. So, for example, you can say the calendar is full for this quarter. Our training calendar is complete for this year. Or my meeting schedule is full for this day. The next 4-letter word we have is fair. Fair means just, reasonable, impartial. For example, you can say a fair performance review looks at both results and efforts. So when we say fair, we mean reasonable or impartial over here. The next 4-letter word is fine, which means of high quality, satisfactory, something that looks good. So for example, you can see this presentation is fine, but we can still sharpen the conclusion. So it was satisfactory, but it did not get the exceptional appreciation. The last 4-letter word for today is fact. Fact means something that is known, proven to be right. So either you know it is true or it was proven that it is the true fact. For example, you can say, let's separate emotions from facts whenever we make a decision for a team. Okay, those were a few small words that they do a lot of heavy lifting during our conversations on daily basis. Now let's step into a few bigger words that you almost use every day in the corporate world. We will start with a few more 4-letter power words that are used in corporate before we get into 5-letter words. The first word I have here is form. Form is a document with spaces to be filled in. So it can also represent either a shape. For example, if you're talking about an application, maybe you're receiving a feedback, you can say, please fill out the feedback form after the workshop. The next word is file. Okay, the next four-letter word we have is file. File means a collection of data or documents stored together. For example, you can see, let's save the final version in the shared file, not on the desktop. So we're talking about one collection of data that is called as the shared file here. The next four-letter word we have is feel. Feel means to experience an emotion or a physical sensation. So for example, how do you feel about the new performance rating system? Or how do you feel about the new update we have in a project? The next four-letter word is flow. Flow means a smooth and continuous movement or continuous progress. So for example, we can say the meeting had a good flow because the agenda was crystal clear for us. The next four-letter word we have is fund. Fund means it is a sum of money that is set aside for a specific purpose. So, for example, we have training fund that supports the professional certifications required for all our teammates. The next four-letter word you have is fail. Fail simply means to be unsuccessful or not achieving a goal that was set for us. For example, if we fail to meet the deadline, we must inform the client early. Okay. The next four-letter word we have is fill. Fill simply means to make something full, to complete. We spoke about this already. But there is another example that we would like to consider. For example, kindly fill the gaps in this report with the updated numbers. Okay. That concludes our four-letter words. Let's move on to the five-letter words. We're going to talk about a few powerful five-letter words that we use regularly in the corporate world. We'll start off with the word focus. Focus means concentrated attention or effort on a particular task. For example, we'll say, let's focus on the top 3 priorities for our tasks. And then we can revisit everything else later. The next five-letter word we have is frame. Frame means to structure or express something in a particular way. So for example, you can say, frame your feedback around behaviors, not personalities. The next word we have is float, which is spelled F-L-O-A-T. Float means to stay on the surface. Or in business, we can use this word to represent or to propose an idea. When you're trying to share an idea, you can use this word float. For example, you can say, I want to float one more suggestion before we close the meeting. The next five-letter word we have is force, which means strength or power to make someone do something. For example, you can say we shouldn't force adoption. We should explain the benefits clearly and make them adapt easily. Okay. The next five-letter word we have is field, which means area of work or area of study, and also means to handle. For example, when I take the example of to handle, we can say the support team will field all technical questions from customers, which means they will handle all the technical questions. Okay, the next five-letter word, my favorite, is fresh, which means new, recent, or not previously used. And the example, we need a fresh perspective on our market strategy. So when you're trying to change the idea, you're trying to look at something new, you want to get something that was never done before. In that case, you will use this word fresh. And the last five-letter word we have for today is fleet, which means a group of vehicles that are under one organization, or a group of teams that are under one organization. For example, our logistics fleet will expand as we enter new regions. So we're talking about logistics as one group. So we're calling them as fleet. Okay, so those were a few 4- and 5-letter words that we regularly use in the corporate world. Now it's time for larger F words. The one you will use in performance conversations, leadership meetings, and in a few strategy decks as well. So these are going to give you more force, more future focus in your communication. We will go through 5 lengthier words that will add an extra finesse to your conversation. So let's start with the first word, feedback. Feedback means information given about a performance or a behavior. It is something that is used for improvement. For example, constructive feedback focuses on specific behaviors and offers clear suggestions. The next lengthier word we have is forecast. Forecast means a prediction or estimate of future trends, especially in business or in finance. So, for example, you can say the sales forecast will help us plan our hiring and inventory according to that. The next F word is flexible. Flexible means the ability to adapt easily to different conditions. For example, you can say a flexible mindset is essential when priorities change during the projects. Our next lengthier word, an 8-letter word, is familiar. Familiar means well-known, something that is easy to recognize and understand. For example, you can say, make the new policy familiar by explaining it with real workplace examples. Okay, the next word we are going to be seeing is foundation. Foundation means the base or the underlying principle on which something is built. Example, trust is the foundation of strong professional relationships. So we say trust is the base. It is the underlying principle of every strong professional relationship that is out there. Okay, those were 5 words that are used in our regular conversations during the corporate communications. Now we'll look at a few more corporate essentials, 5 more words that are lengthier and are used during your conversations, in your team meetings, in your emails. Okay, the next word we have is facilitate. Facilitate means to make an action or process easier or smoother. So, for example, you can say a good meeting chair knows how to facilitate the discussion without dominating it. So, a good meeting chair knows how to facilitate, which means they know how to take an action with an easier, smoother way, without any confusions or any issues for the other people. The next word is framework. Framework means the basic structure that organizes ideas, process, systems, plans in one place. So, for example, we can say we use a simple feedback framework to understand what went well, what can be improved, and what to try newly. The next word we have is formalize. Formalize means to make something official or structured. So, when you have been discussing maybe a new suggestion or a plan offline and you want to announce it for the entire office, you want to make it official, in that case, you will use the word formalize. For example, let's formalize this arrangement in a written agreement. Our next word is feasibility. Feasibility means the practicality, the possibility of successfully doing something. So when you're talking about whether the success for this event is possible or not, you can use the word feasibility. For example, before proposing the idea to leadership, we should check its feasibility. The next word we have is frictionless. Frictionless simply means having as little resistance or difficulty as possible. So when there is very low to almost zero difficulty or resistance, that is called as frictionless. For example, a frictionless onboarding process makes new employees feel welcome from day one. Okay, and now that brings us to the finish line of our journey with the letter F. We spoke about a few short helpers like fix, fit, few, up to our big picture concepts like feedback, feasibility, framework. Now, I hope these words can help improve your English communication on a daily basis. I would like to give a request from my side on that all of you try to implement at least 3 of these words in your next conversation, maybe in your next email, the next meeting that you have. Try to use at least 3 of these words that we discussed today and see if it helps you in improving your English communication. That's it for my side for now. Thank you for tuning into Grammatist on DC Live, where we care, we share, and we are on air. I'll see you guys next week on Monday at 5:30 for another show on Grammatist. Thank you, everyone.